Don't know about you guys, but I'm losing my sense of humour. I'm sure you are too, so I'm going to get on to some important things. First and foremost, we're going to cover the Middlesbrough game from last night in the Carabao Cup, and then I'm going to talk about Georginio Rutter. But can I ask from you guys, please, to like and subscribe? I need to try and spread the word about this channel, and the way the algorithm works on YouTube, this video gets throttled if people aren't liking it. So please, just take a second to click the like button. Anyway, let's talk about the Middlesbrough game. 3-0 loss at home to Middlesbrough. 7 changes for Leeds United from the weekend. Equally, 6 changes for Middlesbrough. We played a 4-2-3-1 formation, the same formation we started the season with, the same formation we played 99.9% of all games with last season. And we put players in the squad who aren't designed for pace and who aren't designed for width. Yet we played a game plan that required both of those things. I make particular reference to Joe Gelhardt, a player who cuts in, Aronson, a player that cuts in, and Byram, a player who will not advance up the pitch. We played those 3 players, 2 of which are completely out of position. Poor Joe Gelhardt. I tell you what, he did all right in the first half. I've heard lots of people on YouTube slating his performance. I don't know what game they're watching. Joe Gelhardt did okay. The guy worked hard as best he could. For a player who hasn't got electric pace, he can beat a man, he's good with the ball, and he likes to cut in. He's a number 10, everybody. He's not a winger. So he's played out of position again and expected to light up the room. We won't see him again for the rest of the season. Makes you sick. So yeah, the poor guy gets grief for being played out of position, and it means that we're playing narrow. Aronson also needs to cut in. We know he can't play off that left. He can't beat a man and whip the ball into the box. He has to come and cut in. That's his game. So we played a wide game plan with narrow players. We played Bamford up top from the start. The guys had, 10 minutes in pre-season? And 10 minutes in the first game, we played Patrick Bamford for the entire game. A guy who I think is lovely. A really lovely guy. You hear him on the podcasts, he sounds like a cracking bloke. I imagine behind the scenes, he's someone who would be brilliant to have a word with. A real shoulder to cry on, I can imagine. A really good teammate. But he should be nowhere near this Leeds United side. The guy had next to no pre-season, and he gets 90 minutes. Plus, he simply isn't good enough. He hasn't been good enough for a long time. He looks like a guy who's running down a contract before starting his media career. Equally, Joel Perreault starts in the number 10. Have we not learnt from last season that Joel Perreault does not work in the 10? If Joel Perreault doesn't work up top, then Joel Perreault doesn't work. Use him when we need to replace the striker in Joseph. And if he's not happy with that, he's going to have to move on, isn't he? Max Verber came into centre-back. Looked like a player who was tired, who's had a long last season as well as summer, who looks a little bit unsure of what's going on. We were reassured by Daniel that he really wanted to be here. I'm not so sure about that. I think if a bid came in for Max Verber, I think he'd be out the door again. But we'll have to wait and see. The midfield went missing again. We did this system, don't we, where we ask Ampadu to come into defence. So we end up with a 3-3-3-1 formation as we build up. Looks ridiculous. And we leave Rothwell in the midfield if there's second balls as the only player. So teams know what to do against us. They pack the midfield, win the ball back, work on the counter-attack. Keep doing it every single time. But we're wedded to this 4-2-3-1 formation. Rothwell tried to advance the ball wherever he possibly could. Didn't work. He was on his own most of the time. I felt sorry for him. Joe Rodon was dominated by a 19-year-old Coburn, a young player whose position is under threat from a new striker that's just been signed, Tommy Conway from Bristol City. Joe Rodon looked half the player he was last season. Throwing his arms up in the air, moaning, whinging all the time. I can't stand that about players. I want to see leaders on the pitch, not whingers. Ampadu wasn't as effective as we've seen him, but the guy can't do it all the time, can he? And there you go. Oh, Junior Firpo looked like the player we signed, not the player that finished the end of last season. We were terrible. Middlesbrough were dominant. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm seeing a pattern now. The stats are starting to stack up, aren't they? Last 11 games, 2 wins, I think it is, for Leeds United. Last 11 competitive games. And Daniel Farke looks clueless. Every time the camera flicked to him, he just looked completely confused about what was going on. And all he can do is in the 70th minute make changes. He did it again this week. He didn't make 3 changes this time, though. He made 5 changes at once. Let me repeat that. 5 changes at once. Like a game of fucking FIFA. I've done that in Football Manager and it never works. Gelhardt, Aronson, Firpo, Vober, Byram, all off at the same time. On come Gnonto, Rutter, Gruev, Strout and Bogle. At this time we're 2-0 down. Shortly after making these raft of changes, because as we know it takes 5 or so minutes for players to get up to speed, directly after these changes we concede the third goal. Surprise, surprise. It happened last time we did this as well. Massive question marks over Daniel Farke. And I'm not throwing all my toys out the pram. I'm definitely not a Farke out type of person. I think we need to give this guy the opportunity, once the transfer window's closed and the team is set, to make his mark. He's had difficult situations to deal with. The start of last season, all the faffing around with the team. This season, Chris Somerville going, Archie going, and the next player I'm about to talk about going. Not easy, is it? But I want to see something from this manager. I don't want to see him stood on the sideline with his fucking raincoat on and hands in his pocket. I don't want to see him at the end of the game going on the pitch and consoling the key players as though he needs to keep them on side. I want him to pull those players into the dressing room and rip them a new arsehole. That's what I want him to do. Get it together, guys. Another thing, I want to see him start to challenge other managers in this league, because quite frankly at the moment, managers are walking into offices with their team, reviewing Leeds United, and it's a fucking easy job. It's really easy. You can look at any cross-section of our games, bar Norwich City away last season. We play exactly the same way, we build up the same way, we do all the same things. All they need to look at is a small cross-section of games to understand how to play against Leeds United and how to beat Leeds United. We leave no mystery. So we got stuffed at home. And we're all shell-shocked, aren't we? Let's move on to my second point. And sadly, it's a point that I foretold only last week. Here's a snippet for you. You can catch the whole video on the link above. But what worries me is who else has got clauses. Georgie Rutter has been fantastic in pre-season. Sky Sports made a big thing of our friendly against Valencia, with Georgie splashed over the cover. It raises the question mark, doesn't it? With Willy Gnonto, Georgie Rutter, even Matteo Joseph. Have these guys got something in their contract that means they can talk to other clubs, or clubs can talk to them? We already heard earlier in the window that Brighton were having a little nose at Rutter. Now, they've not dipped too hard in the market. Will they come back in before the end of the window? And the nightmares I referred to have come true. Brighton and Hove Albion have triggered the release clause in Georginio Rutter's contract, the £40 million release clause. They're now talking to Georgie Rutter, and the latest is that he's agreed in principle to their terms. So that means he's off to have his medical, and he'll be signing on the dotted line. He's out the door. Now, I'm not going to start blaming the player. He stayed last season, and to a degree, he proved himself. We didn't get over the line. That's a cumulative thing, but he worked hard. He created an awful lot of assists for our club, and he played incredibly well. He starts this season as by far our best player. The key to building up our attack. He's the only real creator we have. He's the only real flair that we have, and he's leaving. So we are in shtuck big time. We have 15 days of the transfer window left. We have a shitload of money, but for some reason, according to Daniel, because he's the only one speaking to us, we're having to pay for our sins, whatever that means. Whether this is one of those sins and they saw it coming, clauses in contracts, I don't know. But he's going to leave. Good luck to him. That's fine. He's a wonderful player, and I'm gutted, as well as you guys are. But it leaves us with a massive hole. We've lost a player that scored 19 goals and assisted 12 in Chris Somerville, and we're now losing Georgie, who scored 7 and assisted 15. Do the sums as we all can. That's a shitload to lose. And we have to replace it in 15 days. Now, Jonathan Rowe is still in the ether. It's gone all very quiet. There's a lot of talk about Marseille and also Monaco getting involved in that one now. So are they going to go and price us out of it? Or are Leeds going to get super serious now they've got a chunk of change to be able to throw at Jonathan Rowe? But that's not all we needed. We're now going to lose Georgie. We already needed 3 players in 15 days. It's too quiet. Leeds have got to step up a gear. I did a video literally just yesterday about the sentiment and feeling around Leeds. It doesn't feel urgent enough to me. Daniel is Mr. Calm personified. I can't stand it. Drives me nuts. I want to hear a manager with urgency. I want to hear from the board. What's the plan? I want to to know what Steinson and Hammond have been doing with all their time. The mythical creatures behind the scenes at Leeds United who seem to get paid for doing not a lot. What is going on? Do you know everybody gave Victor Orta a hard time? At least he signed players. He went out there and signed players. Yes, the contract terms aren't ideal. They're leaving us in a bit of a mess. But at least he bloody signed some players. Christ. It's not a good day, guys. It's not been a good start to the season. And already everybody's having that sort of universal giggle at Leeds United, aren't they? Leeds are falling apart again. All this rubbish. If ever there was a time for action, it's now. Leeds United have got to sit round a table and fix this, and they have to fix it quick. Because if we don't go up this season, we all know what happens, guys, don't we? We soon fall back into the mid-table. A team that are stuck in the Championship. And none of us want that for Leeds United. None of us want that again. God, I can't go through that again. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. I need your support. Give me a comment below. Sound off. How are you feeling right now? I'll catch up with you soon, guys. Hopefully with some positivity and some new players coming in. We need some good stuff, don't we? We need more than just a yellow shirt. Love you guys.